Oh, welcome back. All right. I think we're just going to jump right in. I can't say that there's a terrible amount of stuff. I'm going to share some stuff, of course, on Thursday about working. Um, but today, let's talk about images in a bunch of ways. Let's jump into this. All right. First thing, take the time to find proper images when you do your searches for image search. Never like grab the first thing you see if there's higher res. Like honestly, every time, let me open this up. Even if I do like a Google search, like, I don't know, images of people using soap. There you go. And I go to images, like first thing I do, tools, size, large. Like don't even look at the small stuff so you don't end up with a small image. Because then you're just kind of kicking yourself. Like, oh, and then I gotta find this high res. Well, what if it's not available high res? So you're like working in reverse. So you wanna make sure that what you do use, that if you're gonna use it in the future, is high res. It's so easy to grab those little thumbnails and then you pull them bigger and they start to look like this, but worse. Don't get yourself in that situation. I use these sites. These are all free sites. I use Pexels the most. I don't know, you know why? Because it's the easiest for me to remember. Pexels. It's my go-to. And then you type it in and boom, you find an image. It's high res. Are they the best? No. Does it take you a while to find what you want? Yeah. Here's the thing. It does that even on pay sites. Like if you have to pay for it, you still got to dig around. Like this was looking for proper images or looking for good high res images is much easier now than it used to be. It doesn't take that long to find it because the internet can hold more. As dumb as that sounds, back when we were working, getting high res images was a pain, and finding high res images and then going and signing contracts to get a high res image to use was a pain in the butt. It's much easier now. So there's no reason why you should be using a super low res image. And if that super low res image is the only image you can use, you're gonna have to recreate it then. So don't get yourself in that situation. So always make sure it is 100% better to work high res all the time rather than thinking I'm going to work low res and it'll be quicker and then I will resubstitute all my high res images in. I don't think that needs to be done anymore. It's something that used to be done. You would work on something and you would have a high res and a low res image that were exactly the same, but you would work with the low res image in there. But now computers are faster, they have more processing speed just off the bat. The programs are smoother to run. So there's no reason to ever just like, oh, I pulled the lowest one from the internet. Like then you just take the time and find the better one. Always work high res, no matter what. There's no reason not to. And like I said, if you're like, well, I couldn't find it in high res, well then don't use it because you're not going to find it in high res. And then it's just going to be useless. Like, but that's the exact picture I want. Well, then go and take it yourself. Figure that out. So I hope that makes sense. But yeah, always nowadays, there's absolutely no reason not to work high res. You have cloud storage, you have storage for MATC in the cloud and here and there. Like there's places to store it. That used to be a problem. It's not anymore. So it's not even like a real excuse anymore to use. So always work high res. I always work high res. I never grab the low res. Like, why would you? It's free. Grab the high res one. You know, and that goes for like finding logos and stuff like that. Just makes your life easier. Now, this one gets fewer and fewer happenings now. Is the artifacting that happens on the edge of a piece when you cut it out. So I want these scissors and I want to place them on a dark background. Usually it would end up like this. You would end up with this haze around it because you personally would do a bad job cutting it out, or the computer wasn't that good cutting it out. guess what? Now it's really good. Now the computer is really good, and you can set parameters and inside settings to help you eliminate any thought on this image here that it was cut out and placed someplace else. You know, anytime you can see that little like, you know, shadow line or a couple pixels, you know, just straggling, that is a clear call out that like, oh, they took that image from someplace else and put it in. It's so easy nowadays to get rid of that. I've mentioned to a couple people, if you go back to your Photoshop book, like the one where you puppet warp the person's head, like there's a whole thing, like it does that with images. Plus, if you're working at home, and I believe well 90, all of you are, because there's nobody in this classroom with me, is the student, you can use the automated like cutout system in Adobe with the student account. I believe that works. I don't think, and that's really smooth. I use that all the time now. At first it wasn't good. And then now I'm working on stuff and super quick. And I think I did it with you guys last week with the bottles. Boom, copy, automatically cut it out. Boom, I'm done, move on. And I knew it didn't have artifacting. So usually artifacting now will only happen if you do it by yourself, or if the computer can't delineate, which you can go in and adjust with a mask then too. So know how to cut out your images and use high-res images. So both of these, like even when you work for these projects, and you go, you know, like, oh, I worked in InDesign for the poster and I dropped in the image, make sure the image is high res. It will res up. If you're running slow, and then, you know, like when you export, it'll find it. I shouldn't ever see like this pixelate of an image. Even if you export the PDF as a low res, like it should never degrade it this much. So always work high res, and then the high res exports out very good. Like this isn't normal. This is press quality. I think, I don't know. I can't remember. So just always double check that. It should look good, clean, clear. We're beyond the point of it looking, you know, amateur and like you can't laugh past it. Like, oh yeah, I couldn't find a better image, so I just use that instead. Like, nope, then don't even use that image. So make sure clean, clear, high res. When you cut it out, we want nothing. We want it to be part of the design piece and not a distraction from the design piece. So that's where we got going there. Oh, speaking of pixels and pixels, I've seen a couple designs coming through, and I'm going to turn off my something. I mentioned earlier on, and I'm sticking to this mentioning, I want this to be a people-centric design and not a full graphic design. We're talking about a body product, you know, soap. People use soap. This is about Earth Day and celebrating and people and like all these great smells and everything. Let's up our design. Like, let's include people. I want to see people. I want to see imagery. I don't want it to be, I feel like the first two projects that we went through were very kind of graphic-y, designy, you know, but I want one, I want to see what's happening, you know, I want to introduce, I want to feel like these people feel, you know, having fun. They're like all refreshed because they use this. Like, let's bring in people. I want every design, all of you, to have people in it. I want this to be people celebrating. You know, that's like Dr. Brown is all about. Besides building a great product, they're all about the people that work for them, the farmers that supply the products. You know, everybody, you know, like that's what it's about. So let's include imagery. It goes from, you know, like if I turn off this and this, you know, like it looks cool-ish, but it's flat. You know, it's not really, it's who's it talking to? It's a cool little design. Actually, now I'm seeing this. I've never turned that off. I kind of like this little thing that's going on right there. you know, it's all right. I'm not saying it's cool because I did it. Whatever. It's a nice looking design. Whatever. But it doesn't have any heart. I want some heart in here. So heart number 1 is product shots. Okay, I know what I'm looking at now. Heart number 2 is some imagery of people engaging using the product. It does change the way it feels. Like this is already feeling more vibrant. Now, let's go through and talk about some other things. Let me dibble dabble into some other stuff too, or I'll show you. So, okay, that's a background, right? Okay, let's try some new stuff. All right, this is that space background. Again, it's adding more depth. It's adding more feeling. You know, like something's going on. I put a filter on top of it because this was too bright with the whites. You know, like, so this is the next step. And so all of these that I'm doing, minus this one, I did within 30 minutes, and I'll show you what I did, and just trying stuff out. It literally took me 30 minutes. I'll talk about how I expanded on this like flower idea on Thursday and how I you know, got some cool things that I don't know if, again, you guys all know how to do this. But the more I show you, the more you'll be like, oh, I didn't know that worked like that. A lot of times you don't know unless you ask or you see it or you look it up. But so it lasts 30 minutes. And then so I found a new space picture because I threw mine away by mistake. And now here's one. Well, we're talking about soap. Why not have soap bubbles be a main factor there? And then, you know, like I can turn on that filter too, dumb it down. That's a little dark, but you know what I mean? So like this even there, I'll go in, you know, if I use this soap one and darken it. I love some of those darks that are in there right around here. But again, it's like now I'm mixing and matching. I get what it's about, and I feel like, oh, I feel those bubbles. But growth. Here's a really like super close up of bubbles, and I changed the color. It was green, and I just went in and I went really quickly in Photoshop, did the hue and saturation and changed it to purple. You know, I just kind of picked a better color than the green. The green looked too alien-esque. But here, again, it softens things up. You know, you see stuff, and we're human, and so that softness really resonates then when you see the image. So that's what I'm talking about. Let's bring in some imagery for this Earth Day celebration of Dr. Bronner's soap, something that I'm rubbing on my body. It's about people feeling good, feeling clean. Oh, here's another one. Now, oh my God, this is horrible. This looks like it's under a microscope. Like it's flattened. This is actually gross. I didn't realize how bad that one looks. Is that this one? Yeah, I'm just delete. So I threw, you know, you throw them in, you don't really look at them. Good. Yes, delete that one. And then here I found this one. It's really hard to see. It's a bubble that worked out like, and I was like, no, it's just a single bubble. That's pretty rad. I had to do a really quick blocking out. You know, and I don't know if it's too much or is it perfect or like, does it need something else? But there was a single bubble on an almost black background. And I just found it. I was like, oh, I'm working around that circle bubble thing. And like, that brings people in. There's trees, you know, you see the trees in there. And it pulls us in. Of course, I'd fix this crap up here. But, you know, I'm just trying stuff out. And then I found one too of like, oh, here, the centering of the person holding foam in their hands is central. You know, like I would have to adjust colors and adjust everything. But like, here's that idea of them putting it in their hands, like it's squirting in their hands. I don't know, you know, going off the limb there. But looking at that, and then I can carry this through. This is like quote unquote would be my intro page for the Dr. Bronner's. I'll show you. And like once I get it set up, it's every page, you know. What the heck just happened here? this page. This is all I want too. This is the intro page. If you click on that, like, I don't care about that. This orange section is what I want. I want the same top, the chat in there, whatever, how big your screenshot is. But this is what we're replacing. And so that's where I'm going for when I talk about this. Like, this will be my replacement page. And I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Like, I don't know which one I want. It's not going to be that. Like, I know for sure it's not going to be that one. I like this one, but I don't think it's personal enough. I do really like this. I think I may do this. And I actually like the hand. I don't know. I got some thinking to do. So bring some life into this piece and enjoyment. I want to try this. What do I have you on? And then I'll show you something else I do. I don't know if you can tell. I'm gonna, before I close this, or hide it. I'm gonna get like a dark blue. All right, and then properties, opacity. I don't like that. I wish this was more like Photoshop, where it's instantaneous. Oh, see, now I like that lighter blue. Oh boy. Just go through. That's pretty nice. I'll keep it at that for now. But that's what I mean, like screwing around. We're screwing around. What works best? What looks best? All that kind of stuff. So that's how we play around. But yeah, I want some life into these pieces. I want it to be about people using a product, not just the product itself. And what do? You just go on one of those websites, and I just put a self-care routine soap, and you want to make sure that you're not showing something like this, Local Leaves shampoo, like that's not what we're using. But you just want the general, scrubbing hands or scrubbing, and there's better. And then for the other one, for the just people hanging out, happy people in a park. It's just something to be like, when you see it, it's fun, it's light, airy, and that's like, kind of like that vibe that you want. If you look at Dr. Brown, or, click around their like blogs and see what imagery they use, but they are about people. So that's what we want to have happening. And it took me a while. Sometimes I get frustrated with the image searches, but in the end, I usually find out what I want. And a lot of it too, when you do these, look here. These are recent searches, but sometimes it will pop up with something, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, like people washing. I think that's where I started, and it was really bad, like too general. And then, people washing, and you can put in their face. And it should all just be quick, and you can get some nice one, like crop out the product here, like have the Photoshop take out those products. Why would you wash your face in such a tiny little bowl? This is, exaggerated. Nobody does that. That's fake foam on a face. Like, that's kind of goofy. But yeah, dig around. Add some life to your piece and make it shine. Make it about people. Let's go back. So that's what I want to see, like some fun. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I should go into anything else right now. I'll talk about, I'll talk about one last thing. And this is to jump into Illustrator. Something that I do that I don't always teach. And I think it used to come out differently, but in an Illustrator 25, they've done something that there's a better color match. So when I work, I put on I know you can do like presentation mode, which I hate, but what I do is I do a fake out of the background. So I always work past the edge, but as you all know, as designers, it's really hard sometimes to work, like to visualize things when you're working past the edge. And I do this in Illustrator and I do it in InDesign. Not always in InDesign, but if I do like a kind of like a 2-page fold, I'll do it. But all I do is I make boxes that are big and come up to my artboard like this. And then you can grab all of them, okay? And then with the eyedropper, you just click the background color and it turns it close enough to the background color. So this one, it didn't match it. Last time it did. It's just a little bit off, but working on it, then you blocked it off. And then you know that thing I make you do with margins? You can do that with this and do template layer. And then it'll make it the template layer. So then when you export it, like it knows perfectly and it keeps it all out. So it's like a little personal thing I do. So I can work with bleed without seeing the bleed, but I still have the power to turn on all my other stuff, like guides and grids. So there's my first trick and tip. So use that as you need. For me, it's a lifesaver because I do not like working like this. You know, I want to see how it's going to crop, but I know I need my bleed on it. So that's how you do it. Just fake it. Put it as a template. And that way, when you forget to turn it off, it doesn't matter. It won't show up in the export either. So there you go. That's the Dr. Bronner's way, what I want you to take away. I know this is due tonight. I'm not necessarily expecting you guys to all turn around and start doing this tonight, but this next round, you have tonight or today is all about getting your logo secure, maybe setting up the posters, getting some stuff set up. And then over the next week, we can figure out introduction of imagery, and then it just all flows together. Then it's all going to be, you know, all the pieces are, you know, generally based off your same design premise. And that's what this whole brand in media strategy, the brand is everything you design from here on out looks like the brand. So there you go. A little shorter for today. On Thursday, I'm going to talk about some other tricks for just general kind of working that I do that you don't think, you know, I don't think everybody always thinks about, especially in doing some like more intricate turning stuff. And then I'll talk about the stand-up, the in-store piece that you need to create as well. So cool. Any questions, comments, or concerns before this thing fuzzes out on me? All right. I was kind of up to date, and I think some people posted a few things already. I'll check them before the end of the day, and I will talk to you on Thursday. All right. Take care. Have a good one.